Imagine this for a second. A country actually declares war, but not on another country, on birds.
Yeah, it sounds almost like a comedy sketch, doesn't it?
It really does, but it actually happened. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something truly extraordinary. The Emu War of 1932 out in Western Australia.
And our mission here, is to really unpack this. It's an event people talk about, but it's often misunderstood.
Right.
We'll look at the sources, figure out the circumstances that led up to this unusual conflict, the tactics they used, and, well, the pretty surprising outcome.
So we can pull out those nuggets of knowledge for you, help you understand the why behind it all.
Exactly. Not just the what, but the why.
Okay, let's dive in. So where do we start? We're in post-World War I Australia.
That's the backdrop. A lot of discharged veterans were given land, particularly in Western Australia.
Right, to start farming. But these weren't exactly prime agricultural spots.
No, often quite marginal land, really challenging to farm. And then you layer on the Great Depression hitting in 1929.
Ah, okay. So things were already tough.
Really tough. And these farmers, they were actually encouraged by the government to plant more wheat.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Well, the government promised assistance, subsidies.
Okay.
But that help, it never fully arrived.
So they're encouraged to grow more, prices collapse because of the Depression, and the promised help isn't there.
Precisely. By October 1932, wheat prices had just plummeted. Farmers were absolutely desperate. Some were even threatening to refuse to deliver their wheat harvest.
Wow. Okay, so they're already staring down ruin.
Yeah.
And that's when things get even weirder.
That's when the emus arrive, and not just a few. We're talking about 20,000 emus.
20,000? That's almost biblical. A feathered tidal wave.
It really was. You see, emus migrate naturally after breeding, heading towards the coast.
Okay.
But the farms, with cleared land and, crucially, new water sources, well, that created this perfect accidental habitat.
An inviting pit stop for thousands of migrating birds.
Exactly. So they started foraging deep into farm territories, places like Chandler, Walgulan. And they weren't just eating the crops.
What else were they doing?
Spoiling what they didn't eat. And get this, smashing through fences. Big gaps.
Oh no, don't tell me.
Yep. That let rabbits in, causing even more damage. It was a compounding disaster.
So farmers are desperate. Many are ex-soldiers. What do? They ask for machine guns.
They did. They sent a deputation straight to the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pierce. Their request was pretty specific. Deploy machine guns against the emus.
And Pierce just agreed to send the military after birds.
He did, quite readily actually, but with strings attached. Very specific conditions.
Okay, like what?
The guns had to be used by actual military personnel, troop transport. That was on the Western Australian government's dime.
And the farmer?
They had to provide food, accommodation, and even pay for the ammunition used.
Wow. So it wasn't exactly a free rescue mission.
Not at all. Pierce also saw other angles. He called it target practice for the troops. And it was a way for the government to look like it was helping Western Australia farmers, maybe even to quiet down some early talk about secession that was bubbling up there.
Politics involved, too. And they even brought a cameraman.
Yep, a cinematographer from Fox Movie Tone to document the whole campaign. Maybe they expected a swift victory.
So the stage is set. The war is about to begin. Who is actually leading this operation?
It was under the command of Major Gwynedd Purves Wyn Aubrey Meredith. He was from the Royal Australian Artillery.
Okay.
And he had Sergeant S. McMurray and Gunner J. O'Halloran with him, their weapons. 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition.
10,000 rounds. Against emus.
Okay. But there was an initial delay. Rain scattered the emus, made them harder to find.
Ah, nature intervening already.
Yeah. They finally deployed on November 2nd, 1932. And their orders were interesting.
How so?
Not just help the farmers, but also collect 100 emu skins. The feathers were needed for the light horsemen's hats.
Seriously. So part pest control, part haberdashery supply run.
You could put it that way. So, November 2nd, first engagement near Campion. About 50 emus sighted.
That way. Machine guns blazing.
The farmers tried to herd the emus into an ambush, but the birds were smarter than they thought.
What happened?
They split up, ran in different directions, small groups, made them really hard targets.
So not exactly lining up for the slaughter.
Not at all. The first burst of fire was apparently pretty ineffective. A second round killed, the reports say, a number, maybe perhaps a dozen.
A dozen out of 50? With machine guns. Not a great start.
Definitely not.
Well,
Then, 2 days later, November 4th, Major Meredith tries again, sets an ambush near a dam.
more birds this time.
Over 1,000 emus showed up, a huge mob.
Okay, this must be
The
it.
gunners waited, let them get close, opened fire, and the gun jammed.
You're kidding. After how many shots?
After maybe 12 birds were killed, the rest just scattered. Another failure.
This is unbelievable. It sounds like the emus were learning, adapting.
That's what's fascinating. By the 4th day, Army observers actually noted something like that.
What did they say?
They reported, and I'm paraphrasing here, that each pack seems to have its own leader now, like a big, tall bird that stood watch while the others ate and warned them when the soldiers approached.
Like sentries. That suggests some kind of organized behavior.
It really does. A kind of guerrilla tactic, almost, which made things even harder for the military.
So, standard military tactics weren't working. Did they try anything else?
Meredith did. He even tried mounting one of the Lewis guns on a truck. Mobile warfare, right?
Makes sense. Chase them down.
Yeah, but it was useless. The truck couldn't actually gain on the running emus.
They were that fast.
Apparently so. And the ride was so rough over the terrain, the gunner couldn't aim, couldn't fire a single shot from the truck.
Just bouncing around helplessly while the emus ran off?
Pretty much. So by November 8th, that's 6 days into this, they'd fired 2,500 rounds.
2,500. And then kill count.
Highly uncertain. Estimates were all over the place. Maybe 50, maybe up to 500. Nobody seemed sure.
That's a huge range.
Yeah.
And a lot of bullets per potential kill.
Exactly. Major Meredith's official report apparently noted his men suffered no casualties.
Thank goodness for that, at least.
Except for their dignity.
Huh. Okay, a bit of dry wit there. You could feel the frustration.
Definitely. There's a famous quote from an ornithologist, Dominic Cervantes, summing it up.
What do you say?
He said, "The Emu Command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of the military equipment uneconomic."
Uneconomic.
Oh.
That's putting it mildly. So the media got hold of this.
Oh, yes. And the coverage wasn't flattering. All this led Minister Pierce to withdraw the troops and the guns on November 8th. Round 1 definitely went to the emus.
A military withdrawal. Forced by birds. And what did Major Meredith say after it was called off?
He gave this incredible comparison. He actually compared the emus to Zulu warriors.
Seriously.
Yeah, praised their striking maneuverability even when they were wounded. And then the killer line. He said, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world.
Wow.
They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks." Essentially calling the emus indestructible super soldiers.
Incredible. Declaring the emus the superior fighting force.
Oh.
But the story doesn't end there, right? The emus didn't just pack up and leave.
No, the attacks on crops continued. The farmers were still in a terrible situation. Hot weather, drought. It was bringing even more emus onto the farms.
So they asked for help again after the first fiasco.
They did, and James Mitchell, who's the Premier of Western Australia, strongly backed them up. He wanted renewed military assistance.
What convinced Pierce to agree this time?
Well, partly the ongoing pressure, but also a report surfaced from the base commander claiming 300 emus had been killed in that first operation.
A slightly more positive spin on the numbers.
Perhaps. Enough for Pierce to approve, resuming the effort on November 12th. He defended it in the Senate, framing it as crucial for protecting agriculture.
So round 2. Did they send Meredith back in?
They did. Initially, the idea was just to lend the guns to the state government, let them find people.
But
Apparently, there was a distinct lack of experienced machine gunners available in Western Australia at the time. So Major Meredith was back in command in the field.
leading the charge once more. How did the second attempt go?
It started on November 13th, and they actually had a bit more success initially. Over the first 2 days, they killed about 40 emus.
Better than the first few days of round 1.
Marginally, yes. November 15th was less successful. But then, through late November and early December, they seemed to find a rhythm. By December 2nd, the report suggests soldiers were killing about 100 emus per week.
Okay, so some progress. More sustained, maybe?
A degree of success, yes. But still, think about the numbers involved. 100 a week against potentially thousands still out there.
True. So how long did this second phase last?
Major Meredith was recalled on December 10th. That marked the end of the military operation.
And his final report, what were the final figures?
This is where it gets interesting. He claimed 986 confirmed kills using 9,860 rounds of ammunition.
Wait. That's exactly 10 rounds per kill. That sounds incredibly precise, almost too precise.
Doesn't it? He also claimed another 2,500 wounded birds probably died later from their injuries.
Bringing the total potential tally up, but still based on that very neat 986 number. How reliable are those figures?
Well, historians like Greg Beyer point out that figure is highly disputed and likely very inflated. It does seem suspiciously neat.
Right, 10 rounds per kill.
However, context is important. An article in the Coolgardie Miner newspaper in 1935, looking back, did say that while the whole thing was criticized, the machine gun approach proved effective and saved what remained of the wheat.
So even if the numbers were shaky, maybe locally there was a perception that it did help reduce the immediate problem, at least somewhat.
Possibly. It suggests the outcome was viewed differently on the ground compared to, say, in the national media or historical retrospect.
So the military intervention ends in December 1932. What happens after that? Do the farmers keep asking for machine guns?
They actually did. They requested military help again in 1934, 1943, and even 1948.
And the government's response?
Turned down every time. They weren't going down that road again.
So what did they do to help the farmers long term?
They shifted focus back to something that had already been around since 1923. The bounty system.
Paying people for killing emus.
Exactly. And this proved much more effective, statistically speaking. Just as an example, in one 6-month period in 1934, over 57,000 bounties were claimed.
57,000. Compared to Meredith's disputed claim of maybe 1,000 confirmed kills with machine guns.
It really puts it in perspective. A targeted economic incentive empowering the farmers themselves worked better than a military operation.
And what about preventing them getting onto the farms in the first place?
That became crucial, too. From the 1930s onwards, building exclusion barrier fences became much more common.
Big fences.
Huge fences, designed to keep out not just emus, but also dingoes and rabbits. A more practical, physical barrier.
Makes sense. What was the reaction elsewhere? Did the rest of the world hear about Australia's Emu War?
Oh, absolutely. By December 1932, news had reached the UK. And some conservationists there were quite vocal.
Protesting.
Yes, protesting the cull, calling it the extermination of the rare emu.
Was the emu actually rare at the time?
Not nationally, but perhaps perceived as such by those unfamiliar. And prominent Australian ornithologists, like Cervanty again and Hubert Whittell, they described the whole military action as an attempt at the mass destruction of the birds. So criticism both abroad and at home.
And this whole bizarre episode, it didn't just fade away, did it? You mentioned it had echoes later on.
It really did.
Yeah.
Fast forward to November 1950, a federal parliamentarian, Hugh Leslie, actually persuaded the Army minister to release Army ammunition for farmers to shoot emus.
After everything that happened in 32, how much ammunition?
500,000 rounds.
Okay.
500,000 rounds of .303 ammunition were approved for release.
500,000. So the idea of shooting emus as pest control, even drawing on military resources, clearly persisted long after the war itself.
It seems so. The Emu War, despite being, well, a military failure and a bit of a public relations disaster, clearly lodged itself in the Australian consciousness.
And even into pop culture, you mentioned.
Yeah, it's amazing how it resonates. There was a musical adaptation workshop in Melbourne in 2019.
A musical about the Emu War.
Apparently so. And even more recently, 2 different action comedy films. One called The Emu War came out in late 2023.
Okay.
And another one, The Great Emu War, is reportedly in the works with writers like John Cleese, Rob Schneider, Jim Jeffries. Quite the lineup.
John Cleese, wow. It really has captured the imagination as this absurd, almost unbelievable event.
Absolutely. It's just such a strange story.
So reflecting on all this, what's the big takeaway for you? What really stands out about this whole chapter?
For me, it's just a remarkable, almost humorous example of how unpredictable human and wildlife conflicts can be, and how our attempts to control nature can backfire spectacularly.
Especially when you try to apply, conventional military thinking to an ecological problem.
Exactly. It serves as this fascinating case study. It highlights the resilience, the sheer adaptability of wildlife when faced with human pressure. The emus, in their own way, won.
They really did seem to win that round. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. Are there situations today, complex environmental or ecological challenges, where we might be tempted to apply overly simple, maybe even forceful solutions?
Mm.
And could those solutions lead to similarly unexpected, maybe even counterproductive results, just like the Emu War back in 1932? Something to think about.